Good day, everybody. How's it going? Well, we're through another year, and another year is on the way. The question is, will Oklahoma make a new law this year, early on in 2025, as they have, and make it a yearly tradition? I don't know yet, but we'll see. But, anyways, we're here to talk about our convention review for the year. Lots of things have changed. Basically, there's been a lot of conventions that have grown crazily, and there's some that have stagnated. Mostly due to situations beyond those conventions' control, and even though I think also the growth is sort of beyond their control too. There was certainly record-setting growth this year. We covered Furry Weekend Atlanta, for instance. And it grew by about 4,600 attendees, which, when you're looking at the top 8 furry conventions, like Furry Weekend Atlanta is now number 3, and it grew by a large convention this year. It grew by more furries that attended Denver this year, and also Biggest Little Fur Con, right? It grew by a Biggest Little Fur Con in 2024. So certainly record setting, and my hope is that that record doesn't get broken anytime soon for the sanity's sake of the people on staff. But Furry Weekend Atlanta definitely, if it does grow as crazy as it did this year, it definitely has an opportunity to be chomping at the heels of Anthrocon and Midwest Furfest, who are the people above them. Now, as far as those two go, for the first time since 2017, Anthrocon ends the year as the largest furry convention in the world once again. It took about a good 6 years, but now they're back on top again. For better and for worse. And what I mean by that is, we covered this earlier about Anthrocon saying that in 2025, if growth and if attendance is too high, they're planning on stymieing back a little bit. They're gonna put a cap on it, as it were, if the demand is going to cause issues. They also, dealing with the fact that Anthrocon had lines around the block on Thursday, and dealing with issues of attendance and getting people registered and in. They also indicated that next year they will certainly be allowing Thursday badge pickup for people who pre-registered only, and people who want to buy tickets to go into FurryCon at the door will have to wait until Friday, from the sounds of it. So they are doing things to try to mitigate the situation of having too many furs in one place at one time. Though I will say, it seems weird to me a little bit that Anthrocon is having this much trouble with that. Maybe because it's during a holiday weekend and it's hard to get volunteer staff for that kind of a time, because other furs might want to go out and do other things. Unlike Furry Weekend Atlanta and Midwest Furfest, which take place in non-holiday weekends. Maybe that's an issue, but there also might be other issues like the logistics of it in general, because I was at Furry Weekend Atlanta. I went through the line 3 times because my lanyard busted. So I went through once to get it the first time. The next day, the lanyard stopped working, and they're like, "Oh, it works. Try it again." And I went out and I tried it again, and it didn't work. Worked on theirs, didn't work on that. Went through the line a third time, and they're like, "Okay, we'll replace it." So they were very patient. They were very patient with it. I went through the line 3 times, and I don't think I spent more than maybe 30 minutes in the line in total for the whole weekend. And I heard that Midwest Furfest also had a very good throughput on their convention. And these two are not small potatoes. They're very comparable to Anthrocon. So, obviously, people on staff take pride in how they do things. But, talking with one another and seeing, if the operations and how it works in those two could work for that one might be a thing. Maybe it's a Pennsylvania thing that prevents them from doing it how they do it in Georgia and Illinois. Though given how um, infamous Illinois is for their sort of, excuse me, for their politic, as it were. It seems weird to me that Pennsylvania would be, weird. But then again, I think Pennsylvania is kind of weird, at least from what I can see. Excuse me. So anyways, that's basically the long and the short of it. Here you can see our chart. I basically took the top 8 convention chart and showed it here. And as you can see, Furry Week in Atlanta is chomping at the bit. It has crossed that line threshold there, and is getting towards the big 2 over there. It looks like this. There should be a number thing on the left side. There we go. Don't know how that happened, but it's Furry Week in Atlanta is like right at that 15,000, and it's chomping at the bit for Midwest Furfest and Anthrocon. Anthrocon ends the year at the top. So the 2 stagnating ones, as I said, it wasn't really their fault, and in fact, Biggest Little FurCon, like even when I did an interview with them and talked to them in around 2016, 2017. They had indicated that like they knew that we're going to have growing pains going forward because of their venue being so isolated from everything else. So they knew that like growth was going to be a challenge for them. So, but a bigger challenge kind of came up post-pandemic, which was that the Ground Sierra, which is where it takes place, basically told them it's like, well, you're going to get the midweek. Right? You're going to get the Tuesday to the Wednesday, which, crazily enough, is one of the only conventions I know of that has to do that. And it's probably because because it is in Reno and it is a gambling casino thing. They probably want to have gamblers on the floor during the weekend, right? The weekend, they want the workers, the people who work hard all week, to come in over the weekend and give them all their hard-earned money. You know what I mean? And I think furries are there for the convention more than they are for the gambling or for the ambiance. It's literally the song One Night in Bangkok, right? Where it's like you have the chess player guy and he's like, well, if you've seen one stinking polluting town, I'm here for something else. I'm not here because it's like, oh, it's such an exotic place. Bangkok is so interesting. Yeah, I'm just here for a chess tournament, right? So it's like same thing with furry conventions. It's like furry conventions are there for the furry convention. They're usually not there for the ambiance. They're not there to sightsee too much. There are some exceptions, and furries who do that are closer to normal than most furries, I would guess. But the problem with that, in a casino sense, is that if you're having furries take up hotel spaces over the weekend that could be used for customers who are actually going to gamble and make the casino money, that's obviously a conflict that needs to be resolved. So I think the way that Grand Sierra resolved it was they pushed them into the middle of the week. And that obviously, since furries only have limited days off that they can take and things like that, I think most people who were coming in from other places kind of stymied off, like who didn't want to take their time off to go to it. So they instead focused on things like Furry Week in Atlanta or Anthrocon instead. So the other one that also stagnated this year and will be off the list. So interestingly, last year we had to kick a handful off of the thing. I think we kicked 2 off the list, or was it 1? I think we kicked 1 off the list. I think it was Eurofrince started to stymie a bit, and we replaced it with Denver. Interestingly enough, that's flipping on its head once again. So basically, it was like a 1-year hiatus for Eurofrince on the top 8. Eurofrince is back on the top 8. In fact, it's the number 7 now. So basically, Denver stagnated quite a bit too, and it dropped to the number 12th position from number 8 at the end of last year. This is mostly due to, once again, not really the convention itself fault. Last year, Denver really had a rough time. Like, it was probably, I think it was one of the most interesting complaints online. I think someone had their car like jacked or messed with by the hotel, and like it was like the furries in the hotel were kind of like getting into a real sour patch, and I think that feeling bled over and kind of impacted the ability for Denver to attract furries for this year. I didn't hear too many complaints this year, so maybe that was just like a one-time shenanigans, and maybe Denver can grow once again. But I think that unfortunately for next year they are off the top 8. So next year we will be putting in Eurofrince, and we'll be putting in Anthro New England to replace Biggest Little Fur Con, which has been Biggest Little Fur Con like was at number 3 at one point. So like it's kind of crazy, and it was actually held number 3 until 2020, until post pandemic, when Furry Week in Atlanta basically took over. Probably because Furry Week in Atlanta really had what really has going for it is that it's sort of in the flight capital of the world. Atlanta Airport is like Delta's headquarters. It is a very, very big airplane hub. So like flights to there are pretty dang cheap. Unlike Reno flights are pretty expensive. So those kind of things factor in. Location, as it were. Anthrocon's location is a bit weird because, Pittsburgh is not known for too much other than steel and furry, I guess. Steel and furry, which are really diametrically opposed things. So it is kind of like Kage has done a good job at getting a niche in there. So that's basically it for this year. Maybe Biggest Little Fur Con, will rise again at some point, but I think it's going to continue to kind of stick around and kind of like drizzle a little bit. But I think it'll keep its thing because there's not a lot of Western conventions, especially in Nevada. So I think that'll obviously Las Vegas Fur Con's up and coming, and it's sort of in that area. So we'll see. Fernal Equinox is on the top 12 and now is in the top 11. And Fernal Equinox is, I believe, the next furry convention that I'll be going to next year. I just got to take the time off for it and do it sooner rather than later so that my boss knows what's going on. And I'll probably see some of you there. I put in for a panel. We'll see if that takes. And that's about it. That's it for the convention's time of 2024. We will see you guys again in 2025 for another trip around the sun. Thank you guys very much for watching. Kick that like, kick the subscribe button. 4 away from the 1,000. Kick the comment in the comment section. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. See you later.